because this always happens. Every time I talk about the failure of modern storytelling and culture and how these franchises are dead because no one's, putting out anything good in them. And like a new movie will be coming out and I'll talk about, look, this movie's crap. It doesn't even deserve to be seen. It doesn't deserve. And I go through and I'll read the synopsis of these films because I'm studying. This is freaking 2025. Okay. Shut up with your garbage argument. I had to go see it to give it a chance. We're living 2025 right now. You can practically read the entire plot of the movie even before it comes out. You hear the director talking, all the little things that the director and the filmmakers and the actors say about the movie. You see way more than just a trailer. I mean, they show you practically the whole film now anyway before you even go see it. We are light years beyond the days when you really don't know what a movie's like unless you go see it. BS, okay? So don't give me that crap argument. And I'll talk about movies and how they're just garbage and people don't need to be going to support this and that. And then as soon as it comes out, people start rolling into my chat. This happened with a bunch of the Marvel stuff. Oh, you're so right, Professor. Just got back from seeing it. And oh my gosh, this happened and this happened. And this is what I think about this. And you're right about that. I don't give a crap what you think. You might as well just go fetch James Gunn his slippers tonight, okay? Because you are team James Gunn. I don't care how much you think you hated this movie. You decided to give it money. You decided on opening weekend, no less, to be part of that take. You are part of the whole promotional package. You might as well be on James Gunn's payroll. You are his little man, and you're right there. You're pro this movie all the way, no matter what you want to say about it and how, really didn't like. I don't care. I don't care what you didn't like. You told me all I need to know when you decided to go see this movie. I just don't understand. What is it that people can't say no to new films? I mean, unless you really, okay, now look, if you really thought the movie was going to be great and you went to go see it and you liked it or whatever, I could not disagree with you more about everything fundamentally, but at least that makes sense, right? That makes sense. You're not somebody who thinks that storytelling is dead and you think these movies are going to be great and whatever. That's, but we are so far beyond this whole I need to give it a chance kind of thing. Just stop it. As I said, I predicted. I said this movie's going to do well because too many people won't be able to say no. They just won't. They won't be able to say no. But what's really interesting is there's this weird, these camps that are developing, and it's being sort of almost marketed as you're either pro this movie and anti Zack Snyder, or you're pro Zack Snyder and you're anti this movie. Can't we be anti both of them? They're both garbage takes on the character, And so I'm seeing a lot of people who don't really think that much of the movie, but they keep saying, but hey, at least it's hopeful. At least it's not deconstructing at least he's not, sad and everything like in the Zack Snyder movie, which I would argue, I read the plot synopsis. It's way more Zack Snyder-like than anybody wants to admit. This is not Superman. This is, as I say in the thumbnail, this is Soy Man. He gets his ass handed to him every other moment. And again, I'm reading the script. The plot is everything. The synopsis is online. I even had to stomach a couple of reviews just to make sure I got all my little things right there. This is not Superman. And James Gunn was honest from the very start. A couple of reviewers are like, you can tell that James Gunn really does love the character, or you can tell that he really is, knowledgeable about the character and the lore in the comic books. We live in the age of the freaking internet. Give anybody an hour and a topic and they can be knowledgeable about the lore from the comics. Okay. So stop trying to play it that James Gunn is some longtime Superman fan and he's bringing his love of the character to this movie. BS. He was honest. He said from the get-go, Superman's not my character. He didn't even want to write the Superman movie. He didn't want to direct it. He didn't want to be any part of it. Then I found my end. I found my end to the character, and then I was able to write it, and then I started to connect with it. And what was his end to the character? His end to the characters, he said, was Superman's conflict between his more aristocratic Kryptonian heritage and his Earth upbringing by the Kents. I don't know what character you think you're writing or talking about or trying to make a movie about, but that's not Superman. Superman has no inner conflict. Okay, now he does have a decision to make. Which one is he going to align a little bit more towards? But there's no this bullcrap in the movie, because in the movie you find out that Jor-El and Laura have sent Kal-El to Earth to conquer it. Go get lots of women pregnant and conquer them all, and take what's rightfully yours and all this nonsense. That's not Jor-El. Now, and some people try to make this stupid argument again. I heard this so many times when I was pointing out all the things that were wrong with the Zack Snyder movies. Well, it happened in the comics. Well, it happened. Well, it is Smallville, and just because some stupid thing has happened before, how is that justification for it happening again? That's ridiculous. Do you know how many ridiculously stupid moves have happened in the comics throughout the years? So many, too many to count. A lot of boneheaded things have been done in comics or TV or whatever, and the audience has said, no, that's not what we want to keep. So the comics turned away from it, or the TV show turns away from it, or whatever. Yeah, they tried this a little bit in Smallville, but then Jor-El meets young Jonathan Kent or whatever, he backs off it. It was a dumb misstep anyway to begin with, but they backed off of it really quickly. Then people are pointing to the stupid, when Jor-El shows up as like Mr. Oz, like at the end of the Rebirth thing, which was a dumb move. This was when Dan DiDio is trying to just kill off Rebirth because he got back in, he got his hands back on the property, and he was going to darken everything up and bring in Bendis and, make everything a crap show again, and which is what he did. So they brought that there. That doesn't mean that doesn't make it okay. That is not Jor-El. Jor-El is a compassionate scientist. He's trying to save his people. He's trying to save Krypton, but no one will listen to him. It's Cassandra syndrome. No one will listen to him until the very end. In the moment it's too late, all he can do is send his son, at least. And he doesn't just send his son out to the stars to maybe go land on a planet. No, he finds Earth. He chooses Earth for a reason. He chooses Earth, he knows that there's the yellow sun. His son is going to be, well protected. He's not just sending him off to a bunch of cannibals or something like that. He also has studied the people of Earth. Jor-El is not just blindly sending Kal-El out to a planet. He studied the people of Earth, and he knows humanity wants to be better. There's the great quote. It's a great quote, and it's from the original Superman. I'll pull it up here because I was posting it on my social media and whatnot earlier this week. It's a wonderful quote, and this tells you everything you need to know about Jor-El. He says, "They can be a great people, Kal-El. They wish to be. They only lack the light to show them the way. For this reason, above all, their capacity for good, I have sent them you, my only son, so that Superman can come and lead us by example, leadership, lead us by example of greatness." This has always been, this is what the hope in Superman means. This is what the truth, justice in the American way means. No one's ever argued that Superman should be for like idiots who don't understand the character. Your Frank Millers and whatnot, they try and make Superman having to do the president's little, tasks and be his little pet. That's never been the case. Superman is there to fight for the American way, which is not whatever an administration wants. It's what America was founded on, that American dream. That's what it is. It's not about politics. It doesn't get into individual politics or anything like that. He's not pro or anti-immigration or any of that garbage nonsense James Gunn wants to put into this nonsense. And Kal-El himself is not an immigrant. He's not a legal immigrant. He didn't decide he wanted to come into our country, but he didn't want to do it legally, so he came in anyway. No, stop saying Superman was an immigrant. Just leave all that garbage politics off. You don't understand the character and the purity of the archetype. Most of you know this because you know Superman, you know mythology, but as I just explained the origin of Superman, you hear some basic archetypes in there already. Jor-El and Lara putting Kal-El into a little rocket ship and blasting him off, sending him in the ship, out on the astral waves. This is Moses, baby Moses, being, trying to have his life saved as an infant, sliding down the Nile River. So you got that one, and in Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel were Jewish, so you've got that aspect to it. You also have the Christ archetype. You can't get away from it, especially once you get the mythology developed a little bit, especially with the quote I just read you. Jor-El saying, "For this reason I've sent them you, my only son." This is the Heavenly Father sending forth his only son to this earth to help them become better, to help them reach their potential. This is not a tyrant. This is not somebody who there's no conflict that Superman has to figure out. There's no, but he says this. There's the really cool symbolic, I don't want to use terminology that'll get people distracted and off. But there's a really cool, I've explained it before in the original Superman 78 film. There was the great moment when he's going to turn back time, right? Because he knows he couldn't save everybody, he couldn't save Lois. And he hears the two voices in his head. He hears Jor-El say it's forbidden to interfere with their history. And then he hears his father, Jonathan Kent's voice say, repeat what he said earlier in the movie. He said, I do know one thing, you've been sent here for a reason. and that is Superman having to come to terms with, okay, I'm not an observer. I'm not just somebody who leads through my leadership. I am here. I am on Earth. He thinks of himself as a man, as a human being. So he is there to help and intercede for good when he can. So that's the decision he made, but you don't call that a conflict. That's just part of his character arc and his journey. James Gunn never understood the character of Superman. He never got this character. He saw a way to mold the character, to change the character of Superman into something that he could understand. And if you look at James Gunn's movies, it's so clear that the man has daddy issues. He does not understand what it means to be a man and what it means to be masculine. He is utterly castrated Superman in this movie. He really is the biggest wuss. Even Jonathan Kent is always crying in this movie, and he says something like, I'm just a mushy old man, and this and that. And I'm sure James Gunn is just rubbing his nipples over that. See how he deconstructed gender norms? Ridiculous. Christopher Reeve knew how to play the character. And Christopher Reeve, he said that he wanted Superman to be an alternative from the more violent masculine heroes of the 80s, like your Rambos and your RoboCops and that kind of thing. He wanted them to see the protector, not the aggressor, not the blood-soaked warrior, but the protector. There's a great analogy of a lot of people trying to be manly, or most people, that people use toxic masculinity all the time, and there's whatever they're talking about isn't toxic masculinity. But if you want to talk really toxic masculinity, that's the wolf, right? That's the wolf preying on others, whether it's women or whatever, preying on other people. And so many people just see their only options as being either a sheep or a wolf. Real, true masculine genius, real, true masculinity is not being the sheep or the wolf, it's being the sheepdog. The sheepdog is there to protect the sheep from the wolf. And that's what Christopher Reeve embodies so well in his turn in the character. And that's who Superman is. When in that first movie, you saw Superman, or you saw Clark as a young man mourning his father, mourning Jonathan Kent's death at the funeral. He wasn't blubbering. I don't even think you saw tears, but you saw him. I mean, he was clearly, grieving and mourning and at least a weeping, a heave or something like that. Makes sense. You don't see him cry at all. You don't see him beaten up at all until the very end when the kryptonite's introduced. And then the stakes are raised. You're like, oh my gosh, this super, super powerful character who's been invincible to everything the whole movie, suddenly something's hurt him. Now those are high stakes. That's tension, right? When you've got his ass handed to him every other freaking scene, like Soy Man from James Gunn's movie, who even cares? Like, whoa, he's going to get his butt kicked again. Okay. I guess he's got to get his dog to save him, whatever. It's just dumb. You didn't see him cry until that one moment where he has that breakdown and finally shoots off into the sky when he realized that Lois died while he was trying to save everybody. He had made a promise to Miss Tessmacher. And that's all part of his wonderful character too, keeping his word and so forth. And then he goes on to that wonderful decision. Is he going to turn back time? And so many people who don't understand the movie, they're like, it was so cheesy and dumb when he turned around the earth and turned back. These people are idiots. They don't understand the symbolism. Now, maybe you don't like it. Maybe you don't like what happened in that part of the movie. Good for you, whatever. But that doesn't make it cheesy at all. It's a very powerful, loaded moment. The story's been building up to it. When he decides he is going to interfere with history because he's here. He can't just be a cold, because, right, the Krypton was all cold ice crystals. His Fortress of Solitude is in the, Arctic there. It's that cold, removed observer. That's not who he is. Superman decides at the end, I'm going to be here. I'm going to help others. I'm going to intercede. And Jor-El's been okay with that to a point anyway, but then he has to make the final decision to do it in the end there. Again, it's not a conflict. There's no conflict between his Kryptonian heritage and his Earth upbringing. That's nonsense. That's only ever been brought up is in the most ridiculous ways. It's Hollywood's attack on fatherhood and masculinity. And people, oh, you're being a conspiracy theorist. Am I? Look at the mud they've driven through Thomas Wayne through. You know, the bull crap Telltale Batman game, you know, having Thomas Wayne be a mafia man or whatever. Even the Pattinson Batman, they had to play with that idea a little bit too. Oh, but no, he really wasn't. But no, he was just kind of scared for his I don't care. I don't care. Thomas Wayne, just like Jonathan Kent and just like Jor-El, these are aspirational figures. It's supposed to be the father, as you know, so the father lives as the son lives as the father. You know, I forget the exact quote. The son becomes the father becomes the son. This is all part of the foundation of the mythology.